Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Rose Gold Goof podcast. I'm your host, Ashlyn Alexander, and I'm back with the lovely
Oh,
Morgan Norris.
ew.
If you guys did not get to it, we released a part one of Are You a Girl's Girl? And unfortunately, the tech was a little askew. That's what happens when you get your microphones from TikTok. But
Gotta start somewhere.
yeah, we've got let the brand start rolling in.
Yeah.
Get us a microphone. Sony, I'm talking to you. I feel like all of these other people who honestly shouldn't be saying some of the things they say for other people to hear out loud on a internet platform have the best tech.
Yeah, they do.
And I heard somebody say microphones should be $100,000, and I'm like, yeah, they should. They should be. They're way too accessible, and I knew that when I got these $10 mics.
I was shaking my head at a clip of a podcast today, and I was like, and they got some good sound.
Yeah.
But it was only the one person that was off, and everybody was like,
Yeah.
"Bruh, are you kidding me?"
Wait, was it that panel where it's like a young African American group? African American group. First of all, I don't say that. Y'all gotta say that. And you know what I'm talking about when I say y'all have to say African American. It was the young black group that does like different relationship topics, and there's a doctor on there. And I try not to say people's names on my podcast because I'm not
We
I'm
ain't got
not
no
famous. I'm not
affiliation.
famous enough to be mentioning people's names, but she is so incredibly intelligent. And she got famous for, and y'all gonna know what I'm talking about. She was interviewing Cam Newton, who I believe is a basketball player. I don't know.
He's a sports
He's a
person.
sportsman. And the way she spoke to him in this interview when he was saying complete nonsense, I was like, that is a woman with like 80 degrees with behind her name. Because do
Okay,
you know which one is that the one you're
I
talking
remember
about?
that I saw the clip. It was him speaking, so I don't remember who the person that was interviewing him.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that this is the
Okay.
person. I've seen these people come across my FYP a couple times, but I don't know their names, unfortunately. I just the mic, the lighting, everything was perfect, but the one man that was on there was just saying some crazy
Crazy things.
things, and I know a lot of people agree with him because just from the rhetoric you see on social media,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is danger.
That is, I always say the scariest part sometimes is someone will make a video that's like not wholesome, but just everybody seems to be on the same wave of like making sense and being a decent person.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that. And then there's that one person in the comment section who is not a decent
Yeah.
person. And that's great because they made the comment, sure. But what scares me is like you'll see 12,000 likes,
Oh,
10,000 likes, 9,000. And even if I see 500 likes, and in the world of the internet, that's not a big number. But my sister said, I don't know who she got it from. I think it was an influencer when people were like, oh, only 60 people, liked my post, or only 100 people liked my post. And somebody made a good point and was like, if 100 people showed up
mm-hmm.
to an event, wouldn't that be enough
Right.
people? If 60 people came up to you and said, I love your book, wouldn't you feel
Exactly.
like that's enough people? So we have like this like weird view of people's value and their
Mm-hmm.
opinion of what we say and do, and what they like and what they don't like. And we're like, oh, if it wasn't 10,000 people who liked it, it's like, first of all,
Right.
can you fit 10,000 in your house?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's okay.
Exactly.
But that's what really scares me though, when people say the worst, most awful things you can imagine, and there's a bunch of likes next to it.
Yeah.
So it's not just you who has this thought, it's all of those other people who has this thought,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
is like really, it
Okay,
makes
so
me
we
put,
know who you
or
are.
yes, it makes me put a time limit on my apps when I
Mm-hmm.
see stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
it's like we were talking about before. It just, that is the end of the internet, and somebody makes the awful
Mm-hmm.
comment and you're just like, why would
Yeah.
you say something like that?
Yeah.
But they do. And then, so before starting this podcast, I was partly self-conscious that, like, we didn't have a place other than my mama house to film it. Shout out to my mom, Flo. I was like, what if I wait until we get like a room, or we rent a studio, because people do that,
Mm-hmm.
so we can do the episodes. And then I would see like the younger generation podcasts are like blowing up, and it's literally them, and like, they're at their mom's house at a
Mm-hmm.
kitchen table with these $2 mics. They're like in jeans and sweatpants, and they're just chilling, and they have all these subscribers, and they have
Yeah.
all these people. And I'm just like, you know what, there's so many people on this planet. There's enough millions of people to go around. Like, if a million people like your thing,
Mm-hmm.
a million people might like another thing.
Exactly.
You know?
And if people like you, they like you. Like
Yes.
they're not gonna be nitpicky. Well, she ain't in the studio.
Mo-
That is so wackadoodle.
Not wackadoodle. Remember, I should start doing the Morgan's word of the day.
Oh man.
I think we should say wackadoodle for sure. But Yuckmeister, I don't think you said it
Yeah,
on any.
Yuckmeister.
Yes, I think she said it on like the first or second episode that we've ever done. But Yuckmeister is one of my favorites. I got my sister saying that now, and that really is what brought it home. Like off, like I don't know what we were talking about, and she just said she's like, "Yeah, Yuckmeister," and I said, "No,
Because that
wait a
that to me
minute,
is the epitome of yuck.
Yuck."
So it just lets people know that I am in total non-agreement with whatever I call Yuckmeister.
There's no way that you could think that I agree with what you said if I say Yuckmeister. Like that's the doctorate of yuck.
Absolutely.
100%. That one.
Well decorated.
Yeah, he wears a robe.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's married to disgust from inside out. That's who that is. It's definitely a Mister, and he's married to disgust.
Screaming.
All right, so we're gonna try to jump back in from where we left off. So give us a little bit of grace. We're trying to reconnect thoughts that were already streaming until we realized the mics were no longer working. The phone battery got low. So we're gonna try to work through those things today. We are charged up on devices, but we've been playing around for a few minutes, so who knows? The phone could go at any moment. Just kidding. She started out strong at like 65%, so we'll see what happens. All right, so Morgan, I'm just gonna let you jump back into what you were saying. So, you were talking about still yourself dealing with walking out of what the enemy says, like that voice of no one wants to be your friend.
Yeah.
And just that unhealthy self-criticism when your friendships with other women wouldn't work out.
Yeah.
You would do a lot of blaming yourself. So I kind of just wanted to get you back to where that was and see where your train of thought was there.
Yeah, so God is just so good because I'm coming out of that, and I can notice when I'm like starting to go back into that negative self-talk, and I'm like, no, it's not that deep. Like, just move on. Maybe crochet a scarf or something. And the more I read the word, the more God's voice is what's louder than the enemy. The enemy is always pointing the finger, accusatory. You're not good enough. Da 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 da. That's not how God talks to us.
Yeah,
so
amen.
If I'm being told, or my mind's telling me, I mean, they don't really want to hang out with you. They're just saying that because they feel bad. I mean, it's whatever my mind might think of. I'm like, it doesn't sound like God's voice. Babel, girl. I'm more able to recognize that and move forward with that. So yeah, I'll say I'm in a good place.
Okay.
It was painful because I really think where the enemy stepped in and got a foothold was in 7th grade when I was friends with in kindergarten we met and we were like BFFs for life. Then another person came in. This was 3rd grade.
Oh yes, I remember you saying, yeah.
And my mom had told me, and when you're in the midst of it and you're a child, you can't really see like from an adult's point of view. But she says she saw from the beginning that this third person was trying to drive a wedge. So I internalized that, like, what am I doing? I still don't even know why we fell out. But I remember the original person that I was friends with. Literally, I remember her saying, well, I'm friends with so-and-so now, and slammed her locker. And it was time to go home, like to catch the bus and go home from school. And that just really, I still remember that moment. And this was 7th grade. I'm like 42 now. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. I'm 32 now. That, I think I closed off a lot from friends when that happened. Yeah. And so it's been like years of rebuilding. It's amazing, not in a good way, but like extraordinary. I don't know what to say, but just crazy how the enemy can wreak havoc. Yeah. And then like just from one instance, and then it can shape your whole life if you don't allow God to come in and heal your heart. Yeah. So then years later, me and the original friend reconnected, and she was going through a lot of things at home that I didn't know.
Yeah.
And we were children, and she probably didn't even know how to voice that and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So, you know, when I see her, obviously it's all love. Like,
Mhm.
we were children. And then I remember I was working somewhere, and the girl that had drove a wedge through us, she came up and gave me a hug. So I'm like,
Mhm.
oh wow, this is, cool. Like, because I had no ill will towards her, but it was nice
Yeah.
to see that she wasn't still holding on to
Yeah.
that. Um, so because I remember when I think I was in high school, I tried to add the third person, the person that came in as a friend, and like she didn't like accept it.
Mhm.
So I was wondering years later, if I ever see her, how would she react? And so it was
Oh yeah.
normal.
Like, is this as fresh as yesterday for her as it is
Right,
for
because I would
me?
have been
Yeah.
like in my mind, I would have been like, well, that's interesting because we're adults now. Like, I
Mhm.
don't expect you to be like, hey,
I
let's
told
exchange
you my
numbers,
soft spot.
let's let's paint each other's toenails. Like, I don't expect you to do that. But so it was nice to see her and see that she's well.
Mhm.
So
I think that like that goes to show sometimes how, like you said, the foothold. But I have, like, we talked about just before we started record, like, I've apologized for things that were so like recent to me or so real or
mhm,
like just so offensive,
yeah.
and the other person's like, girl, I don't even remember what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I always wondered that for when people hurt you or do
Mhm.
something, whether it was intentional or not intentional. And that's why forgiveness in the Lord is so
Mhm.
important, because it's more likely than not they're not thinking about what
Right.
they did, also because it had nothing to do with you.
Mhm.
And I know I've said this before and I'll say it again, that like I learned in high school psychology class, it was Psych 101, and Miss Helmer, rest her soul, had asked us to say what we pulled from the class. And one of the first things she said that really pissed me off was, it actually made me very angry. It was that don't take anything personal. And it really irritated me because I was like, nah, because it's personally happening to me.
Right.
Like, what do you mean? And then through the unit of psychology, I understood that like a lot of
Mm.
what we do is so internal that what we do on the outside is just evidence of what's happening on the inside.
Yeah.
So when I may have hurt someone in sixth, fifth grade, if I was going through something so traumatic, like at home or within myself, like insecurities or whatever, I probably showed behaviors of
Mm.
that, but I never really registered that I was hurting people or
Mhm.
doing things. And when I look at all of like the mean girl incidents that I had growing up, I can now, as adults, like if I've talked to those women or I'm still friends with them, or I just know more about that time now, like through the grapevine or whatever. Like a lot of people, they'll go through healing and they post it, on
Yeah.
social media, and I'm like, wow, I did not know they were going through that when we were
Mhm.
kids. And
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, that's why you were so mean.
Yeah.
And everything makes sense. Like, and but for them, it may not even, it might have just been a Wednesday.
Mhm. Right.
And
Wow.
for us, it's like, no, that really changed the course of who I am
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. And people make jokes about kids and their trauma and like bullying and, oh, they're so soft. And like, let me just explain something to you.
Oh.
I've taken several other psychology classes in college since that one in high school, and psychology is like it's science, so it's consistent, and you just kind of relearn the same things, but then
Mhm.
you learn new
Like
things.
cumulative.
Yes, and so we did a study of personalities, and almost every, I guess it would be, I want to say theorist, was said like everybody agrees that everything starts with childhood, everything
Mm.
starts with adolescence. So in between those years of like birth to 13 are so crucial
Yeah.
to who you are for the rest of your life. And people are like, oh, just get over it and brush it off. But no, like those years create the foundation of who you are and also how you handle those things. And sometimes when you do therapy, you will start to like dig up those things. That's why therapy is so important, y'all.
Mhm.
You start to dig up where those things from, and I think where those things came from. And I think one of the most challenging things my therapist has had me done is dig up the root of where those lies came from. Like,
Mhm.
why did you think you weren't worthy
Yeah.
of this? Or who told, like, when did you first think that you were a bad friend? Or when
Mhm.
did you first think that, people didn't find you interesting or wanted to hang out with you? When did that lie
Yeah.
first start? And then how did you feed that lie? And just like how basically the way she worded it was like, I was I remember I phrased it, I was feeding my fear and anxiety like protein bars.
Mm.
But I like, it feels like protection. Like,
Yeah.
see how they did it?
Yeah.
Yep, I told you no one likes you. I told you
Oh,
you're not
yeah.
pretty enough. Like, I'm just trying to protect. Like that's how that voice sounds. Like, and then you sit there. Like I literally made her a slideshow of like all of the boy trauma
Yeah.
and like friend trauma, and like I could see the lie start as a little seed, and I could see over the years at like 11, at 12, at 19, at 25. I could see. I won't go too high because y'all gonna guess my age. Um, I could see where I fed the lie, and it just got bigger,
Yeah.
and then it became this coat of armor and this identity of, oh, I am ugly. I'm not attractive. Like, because that was what I struggled with. And it was like, I believed it. So when I got older and became a woman
Yeah.
and men were trying to call me beautiful, or even my friends were trying to call, I didn't believe it because I was like, well, I've had X amount of years of this lie being proved over and over again. And now it's true.
Yeah.
So I think that it's important to recognize it, like, though it may not have been, pivotal to them, it's okay that it was pivotal for me because it was meant for me to go through and for me to deal with. So I think that's interesting because I've seen a few of my bullies as an adult, and when I tell you, girl, they don't recall a thing. They don't, and they're all like, "Hey, girl, how are you? How's your mom? How's your sister?"
I'm grabbing more tissues from the
Okay,
tears.
literally, I'm like, my mom was probably thinking about how you were so mean to me in second grade, but whatever. And then I always try to like think like, was I mean to people? Or because there were two girls that I've sent apologies to. There was one girl that I went to elementary, middle school with, eventually high school, but we weren't really friends. Like we just grew apart, interests and things like that. And I remember being deliberately mean to her for no reason other than I could. And it haunted me for years. And that's what made me think that like everybody's not built to be callous like that. Because also I wasn't going through anything at home. Like my parents had gotten a divorce when I was like in fourth grade, but it wasn't anything like shattering to the point where I had to act out and become like the school bully or anything. It was nothing like that.
Put on the school bully.
And I would look at that time and I'm like, it was like a year before I started getting bullied, and I was only mean to this one girl, and we were friends before that. And like I said, it haunted me. And I think I sent her a message when we were like 20, maybe like right after high school. And I was just like, hey, you may not even remember this, but I was not very nice to you when we were kids. And I remember I used to put paint in this girl's hair, like, and we had art. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know what it was me and another friend, and we did that to her like every time we had art. And she would like, and I remember seeing her try to figure out where the paint was coming from, and she would look so broken. And that feeling just came over me. I was like, oh my, that was horrible. And she must have had to go home and explain that like I keep having paint in my hair and I don't know why. And I was like, why did we think that was funny? Like, and then I looked and I would always try to like, okay, what was the reason? What was the reason? Because me being me, I'm thinking there had to be a reason. Like, why would I just be mean to this girl? And I remember, okay, she was a little annoying. She was one of those kids who like knew everything about everything. That's not a reason to be mean to her. Like, just tell her, all right, girl, we get it, But to be deliberately mean to her was evil. And I remember she wrote me a message back. Excuse me. She wrote me a message back, and she said, thank you so much for this. I want you to know that, like, I don't remember this as much because you were not one of the worst bullies I had. And that didn't make me feel worse, but it definitely did make me feel better that I was the least of the worst, because she had it very bad. And when we got to high school and some other years where people were just nasty. And like I said, at that point we were in a bigger pool, and we weren't in the same classes. Like I wasn't around her as much. But when I would hear stories of things that would happen to her, and just like physical altercations that would happen, like people assaulting her, and to me, I'm like, what a past to look at and think, oh, you weren't even the worst of what. And I was like, oh my gosh.
But the thing is, if that was weighing on you, why isn't it weighing on y'all?
Yeah.
Why isn't it weighing on y'all?
Okay. Like, why is it being a bully not something you want to stop? Like,
literally.
What is it's the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Because when we do something wrong as Christians, we have that conviction,
girl.
But you're just like, I'm a bully and I'm great. Like, these other people, like, it's quite interesting. And something else that's quite interesting is the people who say, most of the times, the people who say things like just get over it, whether like whatever type of trauma you might have, usually have not gotten over their trauma. In fact, they're still holding that grudge.
Yeah.
It's been 15 years.
I remember back on the playground.
You know, 2 of your friends came to you and said, look, 2 of your friends came to you and said, you need to go to therapy. And you said, I'm not paying
I'm
the copay.
I'm good.
You
They
blamed
said
it
I'm
on
good.
the copay.
When their hairline started to show that they had been through some trauma, they were like, I'm good. When they started to have ulcers, I'm actually okay.
Yeah.
I think you need to address your father walking out on your mom. I think it's time.
Yeah.
And like so between her and then another girl,
You
I'm
need
serious.
to address
I'm
your father
serious.
walking.
I just need like you
Yeah.
need to. I think it's time to send
Yeah.
out.
He didn't
an
hate
email.
you.
Right? It wasn't you at all.
You're mad at your dad, mad at me. I forgive you.
Yeah.
It was your mother.
Yeah.
She just wasn't good at picking, and that's okay. That's why therapy is here. But between her and another girl from high school that I remember, I didn't like this other girl for a reason though. Like she was not a nice girl, and I enjoyed too much talking about her after she was nasty to one of my friends and nasty to me. It was easier to be mean to her, but being that ain't make it right either.
Right.
And I used to say this joke that like I had a church girl curse because every time
the devil is a liar.
No, but like as far as it's a good thing though, I wasn't able to get away with things the way my friends were. Like I couldn't do the mean and nasty things or the deceitful things that my friends were doing because I just didn't. We either got caught, or I just couldn't sleep. Like it just wasn't. I'd end up telling my mom. I'd be like, Mom, they was trying to steal, and I couldn't do it. Like I didn't even get invited to those outings. Those things that were done to us or that we did to other people, based off of the trauma that we were experiencing. I always wish for people or pray for people that they were able to heal that part of them, because now as an adult and being able to especially see why I was bullied in some ways and what they were actually going through, I do feel awful for them. And I'm like, dang, you were going through a lot. And then as women, we don't, or young girls, we don't really get to have those conversations at that age, obviously. And it's never really spoken about unless like I remember I was mature enough to the point where like other adults would tell me, hey, this is what's going on at that girl's house. And then I'd be like, oh, okay.
Right.
Which I appreciated because they understood I was mature enough
right.
to understand it and not say anything or use it against that child, which I found now as an adult. I was like, oh, they trusted me with that information, because then it made me feel bad. Like I remember this one girl bullied me for the way I was dressed. And I did this thing where whenever I wanted to go home because somebody was bullying me or I was upset or sad, I would go to the nurse and pretend to be sick and just say like my stomach hurt, which obviously a lot of kids will do. And my mom would be like, put her on the phone. And she'd be like, who's messing with you? And I'd be like, well. And so this one day in particular, I asked my teacher, who I loved, my science teacher, Miss Broglin, and I said, can you please call like my mom or the nurse? Like I need to change. And she was like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, I need to change my clothes. Like, I just don't like my outfit or whatever. I need a new change of clothes, because they had been bullying me all morning.
Oh my gosh.
And so like it was just girl, and it was just crazy. And so she was like, I don't think anything's wrong with your outfit. Like you look nice. Like, and my brother bought me these new sneakers for Christmas because he used to work at like sneaker stores, and I was so excited to wear them. And by the end of that that mid-morning break, I just wanted to take everything off. And so she says, Miss Brockman was a real one, okay? And she said, she was like, why? She was like, okay, I will call your mom if you truly really need to like change your outfit. She was like, but I think you're changing your outfit because there may be some girls who aren't being so nice to you. She knew exactly who they were. And she was like, have you ever thought that those girls might be jealous because they never come to school with new clothes or new shoes? And I was like, huh. Like in my brain, I was thinking, oh, I didn't think that was, I thought they were just making fun of me because I'm ugly and, whatever.
My goodness.
Right. And that's what I believed, and that something was wrong with me. And she was like, honey, sometimes people will make fun of you because they can't afford. She was like, remember, you just came back with new clothes and new shoes, and people think you're showing off. And she was like, but it's not your fault that your family gave you new things. And she was like, and it's okay for you to wear them to school. Those girls are probably just jealous because they don't get to wear new clothes. And it really just smacked me, because I was like, oh girl, I kept that off on for the rest of the day.
But I'm so grateful for teachers like that, because those are the type of teachers that you remember clearly. We're adults now.
Yeah.
I remember one day in high school, and although it doesn't hurt me now, I still remember it. we're literally in high school. Somebody says something. Now, the high school that I went to, I was like the new kid in town. So I didn't grow up in the school system, the same school system that everybody else did. So I came to the school, and I guess people were trying to like figure me out, size me up. So I did have definitely some girls who didn't like me. The guys were nice. I mean, they might have been focused on their studies. I don't know what you girls were doing, but
nobody was getting homework done.
Like it was crazy. Like some girls would just look at me like it was just a horrible feeling because nobody, and like when adults tell you, oh, they're just jealous, you as a kid and even as an adult, like you don't want nobody to be jealous of you.
Yeah.
I don't really know anybody in their right mind that will want somebody to be jealous
Heavy
of them.
on the right mind.
Because so what I want to say is the kid said something to me, the class laughs, and guess who else laughs along with them? The teacher.
No.
And when I remember feeling I have no one.
Yeah.
And this, I felt so alone in that moment. And I'm like, so if I were to see that teacher now, hi, Mr. So-and-so. But as far as let's talk about past times, you were never gonna be on my favorite teacher list.
No. There's teachers that I talk about, Mr. Hannah, Miss Wooten, and Miss Tucci. Those are the three teachers that I will never forget. Miss Wooten was my 6th grade teacher. She was absolutely awful to me. She was the teacher that made me realize that teachers could be bullies, but like discreetly. And then everything that I questioned had to be my fault. And if it wasn't for my other teachers who had me like the years prior, or knew my family or knew my character, I would have been probably in detention or whatever, or like labeled a problem child. Like there's specific moments with her that I remember being crushed in like spirit and like just feeling like my voice shouldn't be as loud as it is. And like other people got along with her just fine. I'm not gonna say why. I think why. But they like loved her, and I was like, she doesn't like me. Like I just don't think that she liked that I stood out and that I spoke my mind. But I was never disrespectful. Yeah. But I think that she just didn't like me. Like I, as a substitute teacher now, even there are kids I can't stand their personality. I think they're annoying.
Yeah.
But it is my job to make sure they never know that.
Yeah.
Because I may favor other kids. You're not supposed to ever know that.
But crushing a kid's spirit is one of the most evil things you can do, in my opinion. It's so, it's really crazy. And I do think that there are some times when an adult can be jealous of a child.
Oh, yes, for sure.
And that's so weird.
And I never noticed that until like I got older and I saw people do it with their kids. And now I go to people's classes and I tell kids, I'm like, teachers can be bullies too. And sometimes the co-teacher or other teacher will look at me kind of like, and I'm like, no, we're breaking, like, we're not doing this. We're not going to let kids think that adults don't need to apologize. And we're not going to go around acting like some teachers are not bullies, because some of them are.
And why? And if you're a teacher watching this, please do not join in with the class laughing at the student. Oh my God. Like let the kid know, whether it's a kid or like a high school kid, that at least you have their back.
Yes.
Because I felt it was nowhere to go. There's no recourse.
Well,
the grown up is laughing.
Because what do I do now? I can't even lie. So I am a sub who will roast kids if this is my rule. And all my kids know this, from the little ones to the high school ones. Miss Alexander's rule is, if you roast my friends in the class, I will roast you next.
I'm screaming.
And then I say, which is my favorite line, if you want to be funny, I can be hilarious. And usually, like, the younger ones, they won't test the water because they're like, she sounds like she means business. But then there's always that one. And a few weeks ago, I made a kid cry because I laughed. Now, I did. He went under his desk and he cried. And
he crawled under the. He did a tornado.
He sure did.
Crouch.
And you know what? So what? Because it was what I'm gonna tell you. It was what psychologists, I only know because I'm in my adolescence class now, call a natural consequence. Now, what happened was for the first. Now they have these block schedules. I will explain. They have these block schedules that are like crazy amounts of minutes long, like maybe 80 minutes. When we were in class for maybe 42. The teacher did not leave me any work to do. The front desk didn't give me any roster. It was just one of those schools that was not organized at all. So I'm winging it. And I have them playing like this online game. Teachers, there's like Kahoot, Look It. They're playing this game. And I'm telling them, listen, we'll just do this. We'll chill for the class period. I'm getting to it. This kid comes in on 100, and he's just being so mean to like every single kid in the class. He targeted this one kid who's like heavier set. He's calling him fat. He's
Oh my
saying,
gosh.
you eat too much McDonald's. You know they love that phrase, big bag now.
Yeah.
He's calling the kid big bag and like, look at your shirt, like just ripping this kid up. And I'm telling him, and I'm like, I say, kid, like, say his name, and I'm like, hey, bud, you have to stop being
Hey,
mean.
bud.
Hey, buddy, you gotta stop. These are fourth graders. So I'm like, hey, buddy, you have to stop being mean to my friend. Like, it's not okay. You have to chill. And then he's like, shut up, da da da, like going
To the
off.
teacher?
Yeah, to me, he didn't care. And then to other kids who were jumping in trying to defend their friend, like, because they at this point it's like all of them versus him. And he's like, and you got this, like he's making fun of the, because you know these are kids being raised by cell phones and like TikTok and Instagram, so they got those jokes. He's like, your hairline is this is that, like he's going off on all these kids, and I'm just like, I'm taking mental notes of like what I'm about to rip on him for, because that's just my job to make sure. And I told him, I said, listen, honey,
Oh my gosh,
remember what Miss Alexander said, do not rip or roast my friends, because I will roast you next. And he was like, you're not going to do that. And I was like, oh, it's coming. Because at this point, I'm sizing him up. I'm looking at his pants. I'm looking at the ankle to pant ratio. I'm looking at the ash that could have been turned into smooth skin with some lotion before he left the house. Because now I'm looking at the beady beads. Because now you messing with my kids. Because the one kid is like, you can tell he's just like trying to keep his composure. Because now he's upset. Like you the kid's calling him fat the entire
I would have
period.
been cried.
Okay,
cried.
so he's chilling, and so I can't say that we're not allowed to say their names. But this child had a name that was the same exact name as an animal on TV. And meanwhile, then he started calling the other kids like monkeys. And yes, in the way that you think he would call a child a monkey.
Are you kidding?
Yes, I'm so serious. These kids were off the chain.
Jesus, I'm ready whenever
This
you are. This is
school,
too
I was
much.
actually warned about the school by another sub that like you should not go because the behavior was crazy, and that sub was not lying. Like the kids were off the chain. So I already knew. I'm like, I'm not playing with like this is not a game. Like this is real. So I'm thinking. So I say the thing to him. I was like, well, I wouldn't really be calling people monkeys when your name is XYZ. And the kids start cracking up, right? And so that was going to be my only blow, because I was like, that did him in. He was fine. Then he keeps going to one of the kids who's like special needs, and I'm telling him, you really need to stop. Like this, like you've done too much. Now he had a sidekick, and this girl was, from the moment I got in, she was very respectful. She was funny, but like funny the way adults are funny.
Okay.
She was smart funny. And she didn't say anything to mock anyone else. She was just funny for no reason. Like, and she would banter with me the first few, is like she was bantering me the first few minutes of class, like in between the chaos. Like she was a funny kid. And I kept, I was like, you're so funny. Like when you get older, you gotta do stand-up comedy. Yeah. She was hilarious. But this kid who with special needs, he was her friend. And she's like the whole time, like as he's getting on the other kids, he's getting on him too. And she was like, you know, stop talking about my friend, stop talking about my friend. And oh, here it came, the blow, the final blow that did him in. Now the kid, her friend had on Batman Crocs.
Okay.
And she says, and she waited for the perfect moment for hushed silence, because he had the class in a tizzy. She waited for the perfect moment of hushed silence, and she stands up and she goes, that's why your hairline looked like his Crocs.
Oh my goodness.
And the class, when I tell you, they paused for approval. Everyone looked at me, and I could not hold. I literally did the bah. It was her, because at the same time she's pointing, the friend is jumping up and down to show off the Batman emblem on his feet. And I looked at the Crocs. I looked at this kid's hairline, and I saw Bruce Wayne. It was exactly like the Batman wings, like to a T. She had been studying this kid's hairline, and I laughed from my soul. He was done.
Did he sit down for the rest of the class?
He was under the desk crying for the rest of the class. Oh, that's why. And that was it. So my laughter was, you think he would have learned when I said what I said. He kept going, and I said, oh, looks like a natural. And I didn't even, she was so quick with it, I didn't even have time to stop. I didn't know what she was going to say. she said it so fast, but before I knew it, I was not cute. I was not very demure. I was cackling from the deepest parts of my toes.
So I think I might have been that kid in class because I remember twice. It's like I remember twice. One time I was asking questions in class, and this guy, I said, "Your GPA is microscopic. You should be listening." The whole class roars. He turns red. I don't know what to tell you. Then I was in basic math in college. Why? Because y'all doing too much. I should have to be in basic math, and that doesn't even count. Then to get to the real college math, y'all are annoying, and a lot of people are dropping out because of that. Anyway, so I was in basic math and I asked a basic question because I'm here for a reason. One time this guy sucked his teeth. I said, "We're both in basic math. Why are you sucking your teeth?" Class roared. Then one time the teacher in that same class got annoyed with me, and I wasn't going like this. Like the amount of times this happened, you would think I'm doing all like this. No, I wanted to pass that class so I could get on to things that mattered, honey. I had things to do.
Right.
Anyway,
not graphic online.
I said to the teacher, was like going up to the board like this, like mad. And I said,
I'm sorry, was this a college class?
Yes.
That you were paying for?
Yes. I said, "Professor, this is basic math. I need help." And then the class roared again. And
Why
then
do you think I'm
like,
here?
I was like, this is weird. Y'all are really weird. Like, you need to be paying attention behind me. And this is basic math. So yeah, I'm going to ask you basic questions. That's why I was placed here.
No, because I want you to understand that this is a college course.
Yeah.
Which means it's not free. So get on up there and earn your paycheck. Because what are we even talking about
and she
right
was
now?
the department head. I'm like,
how lazy.
I'm very lazy. You know that TikTok when the older woman's going, that's what I was doing.
But she's like that.
Because how is this happening? Like, I just want to get past this class to get to things that matter.
No, because you getting mad at me for asking a question is actually wild. Because, man, what are we here for?
Because I remember walking outside and it said department head or whatever on the placard outside her office. I'm like, this is crazy. You are a department head.
Are you the head chair and you're acting as such?
You can give it to somebody else at this point.
Yeah, no, you have to give that over. Maybe it's the tenure, because you know how they love a good tenure.
None of which is my concern.
Could care less about it if you ask me. No, I did feel bad, and I did try to talk to him after, and he wanted no parts. And then to make matters worse, by the time the kids were leaving, they're like, "Yo, the sub just roasted him." The next class comes in. "Is it true that you roasted so and so?" And I was like, I say yeah, because I don't lie. And I always tell administration too when I come to schools, listen, you'll never hear me being mean to a child ever, but I do not tolerate kids getting bullied in front of me. And I'm not going to be the teacher who said, "Oh, I didn't hear what he said," because that's what used to happen to me. Like, kids would be brutal, and teachers would be like, when my mom would say something, and they'd be like, "Oh, well, we didn't hear," and like stuff that happens in the hallway we can't really control, and whatever. Or they would just tell the whole class to be quiet. Now you just heard that other kid call me a name, and instead of addressing them and making them feel stupid for being mean, which they should feel silly for being mean or embarrassed for being mean, you just tell everybody to be quiet and stop talking. I hate that.
When there's no recourse, one, I think children thrive in what is it called? There's some type of control, like there's some type of standard, there's some type of, hey, this is how we do things. I think children thrive.
They do.
They need to be guided. When there's no recourse, that kid is gonna, if they don't change their behavior, will grow up and meet the right one, which may be the wrong one.
Okay.
or the kid that's being bullied feels trapped. No recourse. Like, wow, the teacher who is supposed to protect me in this instance is laughing.
Yeah.
When I have children, I don't want to have to go down there. Like the black parents we always going down somewhere. But I will go down there. Like, because my kid is, when they go to school, they're going to school to learn. It would break my heart if somebody was bullying my child.
Yeah. I always remember having that hypothetical question with a friend that was, would you rather your child be the bully or be the person being bullied?
Either.
And right. And it was like, but if you had to choose, and I really was stuck on that because I'm like, in my head, I chose bully. because we gonna get you together. Because what do you mean you making somebody else feel
Yeah,
bad about
that
coming to
wouldn't fly.
school? I'll show up to your school in a clown costume and embarrass the heck out of you and sit in class with you. I will be that mom on TikTok that sits in class with you where you cut up and you talk trash. You'll never do that again. And some people don't agree with bullying your kid into, but I truly believe that if you don't know what that feels like to be embarrassed or made to feel small, you may never stop doing that.
So I understand what you're saying. However, would it be helpful if your kid is also humiliated too? I personally don't think so.
I don't know about humiliated. I think there would be, so in my head, there would be a conversation for sure. Like a come to Jesus moment. Like, this is not how I raised you.
Right.
And you will not be belittling someone. And if someone did this to you, how would you feel? Because like at some point I not mess up as a parent, but I missed the mark somewhere that you went to school thinking that you could do the opposite of what I've taught you in this house. So I think there needs to be a conversation about where mom and dad taught you this is how we treat people and this is how you act in the house. What's happening at school? Because you have to do some digging.
Right.
What's going on with my child that they would act out, like we said, act out in this way and treat others so badly? Because something has to be happening on the inside. Now, if it's just a power trip, because that's a real thing too, just like with the girl thing. I had to give these girls in 4th grade another school a whole speech because they left a couple girls out of like where they were sitting in the cozy section of the class to do their silent reading, and I saw the look on the other girl's face that was left out, and she looked off, like she was so sad. And I don't play that when I sub. And I walked right up in the middle of it and I said, and why was she not invited over here? She's the only girl in class not sitting over here. Well, and then the lies. We tried to invite her, but she stop. This room is this big. I didn't hear you invite her over there. Y'all, I saw y'all all huddle up because I always watch the whole thing before I intervene, and they think I'm not paying attention. So I see them leave her out intentionally, and then I confront them. And I said, okay, girls, well, let's be careful with that because don't worry, next week it's going to be you who's left out. I was like, I don't like that because I saw the power shift of like the one girl deciding who was cool and who wasn't. And it changed throughout the day. But this one particular time, she was like, this girl can't sit with us. We're not Little Miss Regina George. We're not doing that. And I come back to the school like 2 weeks later and I have the same group of girls. And the one girl who was the boss a few weeks ago was now not the boss.
She got demoted?
And so she was really upset and she was telling me about it. And I said, oh, honey, did they leave you out? And she was like, well, yeah, Miss Alexander. And I said, remember when I was here and you left so-and-so out? And I told you that it doesn't feel good to be left out. And when it's your turn that you're going to be upset. And she remembered immediately. And she was like, yeah. And I said, honey, this is what it feels like to be left out. And it's not a good feeling, is it? And she was like, no. I said, okay, so I'm sorry that they're leaving you out. But remember, it's never a good idea to leave anyone out. Even if they're including you, you bring other people in. And I think that sometimes it's like that's the only way they understand, like I said, because that power shift feels good when you're the one calling the shots, when you're the one saying you can sit at the lunch table, you can't.
We're all
and
children.
You're the one always
crazy.
Invited to it feels good to be the one always invited. It feels good to never be the one left out. But when you're the one left out, oh, how the turntables like she was confused, but you saw the moment, and God bless her because she's smart to have not that she's in 4th grade, so she understood. But I saw the moment in her head where like it clicked, like, oh, this is what you had meant when you had said, yes, girl, because that's how your age group operates. You just decide 1 week in and out who's cool and who is this, and it's horrible, it's awful. And then there are the kids who never do that or never participate, and they take because I saw that too. Kids who were just like these 2 girls who just did their work the whole day. They were nice to each other and they just weren't a part of any of that crap. And I was like, see, that's just a personality difference and a household difference probably. But I think that I would have to find out what's going on with my child. Why are you treating someone else like that? Especially if I'm having a girl, and ask her, why do you think it's okay to make someone feel that? Now, if I find out that our conversation, our kumbaya moment didn't go anywhere, not gonna embarrass you, because how else you gonna learn? Or I'm gonna let whatever natural consequences at school have to happen. So I don't know. So what do you think? Would you, if you had to pick?
This is exhausting.
It'd be awful. We weren't supposed to get here today, but we're here.
All right. This is coming from I don't have kids yet, but I pray that my children are children that I could be like, hey, this is what this is, not have to do all this stuff. Just listen to me. Like,
Yeah.
listen to your teachers, do all that. But if I found out, oh, and this breaks my heart too, if my kid were to be the bully, absolutely not. I would definitely make them apologize, because depending on the age of the kid, you don't know if they mean it or not. I think it's a good practice to be like, you need to apologize to this person. When they get older, you can explain, like, do sincere apologies, stuff like that. But when they're like kids, and then I would maybe make them use their allowance or whatever to buy them a gift or something like that.
Oh, that's
because
nice. I love that.
And I'm going to reach out to the parent to let the parent be at ease, to know this is absolutely not what's going to happen, because my father is a retired teacher, and the stories he told me about, like, when the parents was wild.
Oh my goodness.
It's like, you try to go to the parent, your kid is, falling behind. I'm working with them, da 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 da. If the parent is rough,
girl, it's
what
wild.
do you do? So I don't want another parent to feel like I'm a rough customer.
No, it's like when people ask me if I'm going to go into teaching full time after this, and I always laugh and say no. And I'm like, do y'all see what y'all deal with? Like, the pay is one thing for what you deal with, but just what you deal with in general. Like, if it's not admin and the school board, it's the parents. It's never the kids. Like, the kids are kids in a learning facility, growing and changing. They are all the things that they do are exactly right on time. It's when you're dealing with grown-ups with frontal lobes that are acting like children, and they don't see it. They think it's perfectly fine. Or why don't y'all fix it? Or their school, that's why we send them to school. Why can't he read? You send him to school every day. What's he doing? Hey, so there's this thing that you could do when he gets home. It's like reinforcement of like what we do at school.
Parenting.
Some may call it that. Some call it babysitting. If
that's
it's just
wild.
a dad, they call it babysitting.
That's wild.
It's insane, because babysitting your own child is like
weird.
I don't know who put that out, but it's a lot, because some of the parents, it's like you see the child's behavior, and then you meet the parent and you go, oh, I got it now. This makes so much more sense. Or the parents who don't want to have a civilized conversation. I was bullied by girls who were like, their moms were the ones who would send their other daughters to go fight with their younger daughters. So when I would tell my mom about this one bully that I had, and she was like, well, I want to speak to her mother. I'm like, oh, mom, she's not that kind of mom. She's going to send the other girls out to fight before she has a conversation.
And maybe to fight your mom.
She was, because they were that kind of family. And it was just like, what? And then when I realized she was not playing, like when she met like, oh, my mom will, and when I met the mom, I said, oh, y'all really gets down like that. You would rather send your kids to go fight someone than have an adult conversation with the parent of a girl that your daughter's not being nice. Girl, I remember as a child, it blew my mind, because I was like,
but let's look at the previous pages on what happened in your childhood that I'm spitting and carried on. I'm sorry, you all. Because it's like, where did we go? See, there are certain type of people where you have to call the police.
Yes.
Because
they were one of them.
You are not hearing words right now. I knew a girl, and I only heard that she did this. When I got to know her, I am grateful that we're not friends now, because we just not on the same page. I don't think we even view life the same as far as like the other people's. I don't know. It's just weird. But I heard that she was fighting when she was pregnant, and I'm like, okay.
Oh, I've heard of that.
So if someone is fighting when they're pregnant, it's nothing I can say, because you have a child in utero right now that's depending on you for everything, and you are fighting. What if the person kicks you? I mean, when I'm with child, I'll be like, like, ooh, not too far. I'm not. I'm gonna make sure I'm not cutting corners and I'm hitting a table. So to actually go like this, girl, just give me what kind of form is that? See, that's why you call the police, because put them in handcuffs, please. They're like, Miss Norris, why do you have a gash in your face? She sliced me. I didn't slice her back. I would like to press charges to the full extent of the law. Because I'm already learning about concealer. Officer. I'm already learning about concealer. A gash? I gotta cover up a gash now? Absolutely not. And first, I gotta wait till it heals because I don't want concealer in unhealed crevices. It's just a lot of things that I think about in getting into a fight. So it's like, I'm not going for this. You're getting a citation, something. You would press charges? Absolutely. Oh, you're a Karen. I don't.
Assault and battery.
Yeah. Hey, it's a simple assault. Can we move it up to aggravated? Because I'm aggravated. How about that? Let's bump that on up. Don't put your hands on people. Reminds me of the fish on SpongeBob. That guy. And that's why you utilize. That's why you keep your phone charged in case you have to call the police. And then I would call my mom and cry because when it's too much, I have to call my
mom. No, because what else is she doing other than being my mother? I never understand that. I be calling her like, why are you not available 24/7? Like, this is the Powerpuff Girl phone. You always have to answer. Oh my God. I be looking like that meme or sound like Kim Kardashian. Is you sure it's safe here? Because if you piss me off at work, at my big age, I'm crying on my break in the car and I'm calling my mother. And she's going to pray me through this. And then I'm going to go back inside. But don't do this to me.
I will call my mom from the bathroom stall.
Okay. I've done it in the hallway.
Like, and then you got to get yourself together so the kids don't know you was crying. It is a lot. On top of that, you want me to write a paper? Do you see what I'm going through? Do you see what
maybe asking you to write up a report and I'll be like, is it okay that it has tears on it?
For real. Like,
we're just because he should write a report. Okay, it's gonna have my tears in it. A little bit of my makeup.
And now the whole class is disrupted. Oh well. They shouldn't have tried to crack a joke.
I honestly feel I'm jealous of adults who can argue without crying. Because what do you mean you didn't shed a tear? And it's not always like a punk cry. It's like I'm so overwhelmed.
Yes.
That it just comes out as crying. And like I won't notice until like I'm trying to explain myself and I can hear myself being angry. And I'm just like, no, it pissed me off. And they're like, oh, it's okay. I'm not crying because I'm punk. I'm crying because murder is illegal and I cannot hit you right now. And there's some choice words.
Especially if you were like trying to hold it in. Yeah, it just comes out like that.
Know, oh my goodness. I am a ugly cry. Like that's not even a joke. And my friends of friends of friends know that is exactly how I cry. When you've got me all the way, that's just too. You have to leave me alone for a while.
You have to lay down after
that. Like you cannot. If you've gotten me to the point, we're done. That's the deepest part of my soul.
I need a minute.
You've reached the end of Jumanji. Like that's if you ever. I always say when I get a new job that because my rule is that I stay there for at least a year. You will see me cry at least once, like an ugly cry. At least once, because as the world turns, there will probably be one time where I ugly cry and I'm just inconvenienced by being at work. So looping back around, I think we ended with the teacher thing.
Yes.
The bullying. Okay. So to wrap up this conversation about are you a girl's girl? And again, I think this is another conversation I'll have to have with some other friends and just like go down some other roads that we didn't get to go down because we went all around the place.
We did. It was fun.
The friendship compatibility thing. I think I just want to say that you're not going to be best girlfriends with everyone. It's not going to happen. And I think we need to release ourselves from not being buddy. I call it buddy coochie crunch. With
oh my gosh.
I do.
I just heard what you said.
I'm sorry. I will not repeat it, but I call it that. You're not going to be
I never want to be like that with anybody.
You're never going to be like that with everyone. Like there's only going to be a few people that you're really close with. And I think we need to release ourselves from thinking that, sisterhood, we're going to get along with every woman. And I know people are allergic to the idea of being a girl's girl because they think that is not true. I've met plenty of women and girls when I was younger where we just drifted apart, or I hung out with them outside of a bigger group and I'm like, dang, I don't like this.
Yeah.
Like, you're a decent person, you're great. We just
Mhm.
don't have friendship compatibility.
Or you're not.
Yeah.
Or you're not.
And no one's told you. And that's okay. It's not
Mhm.
gonna be me.
Yeah.
It's gonna be our first and last
Yeah.
hang. I've been out to dinner with people at coffee and they like whole time they going on and I'm thinking this is the last time
Yeah.
we gonna hang out.
Yeah.
And you don't know it.
You don't
'cause
even
you're
know.
smiling.
But you offended me thrice. Like, and you know that was rude, but you said it anyway.
And you're laughing and I'm not.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's such thing as friendship compatibility. So release yourself from thinking that we are saying, or like we've read the positives and negatives about supporting girls no matter what. I do believe in supporting girls. I believe in supporting women and believing them when certain things in that context, when certain things happen, and believing women and hearing their story first before you discredit them.
Mhm.
As a woman, yes, sometimes I'm like, when I'm dating a guy and oh, my ex-girlfriend she's crazy. What'd you do? I need to know immediately because y'all have a history of doing that, of calling a woman crazy after you drove her crazy. I need to know, like, what makes her so crazy? Why did you guys not find a
Mhm.
resolve? Something like that.
Exactly.
That's what I agree with. And ignoring repeated behavior. If someone doesn't treat you like a friend, what Maya Angelou say? If someone shows you who they are, believe them.
Oh, can I do it in her voice?
Oh my God, please do.
If someone shows you who they are, believe them.
I didn't know it was going to be that good.
My name is Maya Angelou. I am a phenomenal woman. You see the sway in my hips? Yes. I just started talking like her one day and I'm like, I think I like her.
Cut the camera.
You want me to press stop?